NASCAR returns to the Windy City this July 4th weekend. Cash in on the Chicago Street Course with our best bets for the Cup and Xfinity Series. All this and more. It's a brand new episode of the Backroad coming right at you.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday night to you. This is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here with you. And NASCAR, like you said, Seth, back on the streets of Chicago. Going to be a fun one this week, man.
So pumped to be back in action with you after missing last week's episode. You and Rod held it down as always. Still buzzing, man. Coming off that exceptional Pocono weekend up there in Long Pond. Great to have the whole gang with us, and coming off back-to-back months of being up plus 10 units here for the kids. So vibes are certainly high as we return to Chicago for the July 4th weekend. And, hopefully we can do a little rain dance and keep it away from Sunday's race, but should be a fun one. I think we have a very similar line of thinking coming into this one.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Fingers crossed the rain stays away. Forecast not looking so good, but we're still a few days out, so we'll have to see. Before we get to Chicago, we'll start off tonight going in the rear view, as we break down an absolutely great weekend of racing from Atlanta and / Echo Park Speedway. We'll then break down the Chicago Street Course and the Horizon forecast, round it out with the parking garage props, giving you our best bets for both the Cup and Xfinity Series races from the Chicago Street Course. Even if it is the last year that they do this, it's still been a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll be a great race weekend. And hopefully it'll be a great time, too, as it always is. I don't even know why I'm saying hopefully. It's always a great time in the IBT Racing family, our exclusive Discord chat, which gives you exclusive weekly betting model access. You get a Discord chat with all of us, myself, Seth, Ryan from My Fantasy Race, Rod Villagomez, the third member of our crew, and the rest of our racing family. And it gives you entry into our memorabilia giveaways. Trav in our Discord, he's been there, I think, just about since the beginning, pretty early on. He's had the luck of the draw to win two of our giveaways, both a Ross Chastain helmet and then this Joey Logano signed polo. He has been generous enough to donate both of those items to the next person. The Chastain one's already given away, but to the next person that joins the IBT Racing Family Discord, you will get that signed Joey Logano polo. No certificate of authenticity there.
No,
it's definitely a nice piece. We're pretty sure it's legit if you matched up with the printed signature on there. Shout out to all of our members in there, and shout out to the next one because you'll be getting a sweet piece of memorabilia there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I always think that the people who hang out in the IBT media Discord with us and are over there talking bets with us consistently, like those are our people, right? Like those are the type of guys we want to hang out with, and gals as well. And Trav, not only does he win the first giveaway of the season, gives it away to the next person who joins. He's doing that again here. So just super kind. Link is in the episode description. So if you guys want to join, you're going to get more of Elliot's Eyes Best Bets. You'll get our thoughts over the weekend. You'll get some, BS and, some Busch Light thoughts there throughout it as well. But it's a great time. And you get our betting model, which has been absolutely ripping for us this season. So if you guys do that, if you jump in, $36.99 or 36 flat for the year, $3.99 per month, and you're gonna get that Joey Logano jersey if you're the next person. So it's a race once again, just like it was to get in here this morning, 8:31 a.m., 12 hours before we go live. Kush, he pulled up, he backed into the tailgate. He started pregame this one and said, first, gotta pick SVG for the win. What's up, Kush? Good to see you, man. Saying, what are the odds for rain? They're out there. They're out there for sure. Marcus, not long after, 3:55 p.m. Eastern time, hopping in as well, saying he's backing Christopher Bell once again for this road course. And then John comes in here at 8:01. Tyler Reddick will win in Chicago. We got Stan hopping in saying Gibbs takes the checkered flag on Sunday. We'll talk a little bit about Ty Gibbs, I think, this weekend, Elliot. And then we also have our guy, Nick, saying what's up. He thinks could be either Ty Gibbs or a little McNasty action, or your guy Bowman. So, Elliot, the IBT Racing family, they're ready to go, and they're ready to get after it here tonight.
Yeah, man, no doubt about it. And hey, throw your picks to win in also. What you think your good bets are your picks to win this weekend, both Cup and Xfinity. We want to hear what you have to say. Shout out to everyone in the comments already. Hopefully, it'll be a good night in the chat. Again, I say hopefully. It's a good night in the chat. It's a good time in the IBT racing family. We're about mid-season now, maybe a little mid-season discount for some of these people coming in. I'll put you on the spot there. We'll get to that a little later too, at some point. Shout out to everyone listening on Apple Podcasts, our audio version as well. Please leave us a review, whether you like us or not. Throw it out there. Give us your opinion. We'll do our best to improve there. And shout out to everyone on Talkin' West Tennessee 101.5 FM. That show airs 8 p.m. on Saturday nights. So again, you get to that, you'll miss the Xfinity action. The Cup qualifying already done. These odds will be a little off, but that's okay. We're still on the same lines here, and no doubt about it. Regardless qualifying, it could help us. Honestly, it could help those odds.
And rumor has it that both the Backroad and the 19th hole over here on the IBT Media YouTube channel, two of the more popular shows out there in Western Tennessee right now. So they like their SCAR. They like skirting around the track a little bit, betting on some race cars, and they also like betting on some golf down there. So I don't think anything less of the people of Tennessee. That's what I expect from those guys.
Yeah, wonderful group of people out there. Before I keep rambling and keep making promises we might not be able to keep here, let's go ahead and get to the racing and get back in the rear view. So like I said, great weekend of racing from the newly rechristened Echo Park Speedway. The Xfinity Series had some rain there, got pretty wild with a couple of wrecks. Ends up with Nick Sanchez in that big machine number 48 getting his first career win. And that was a little spin and win action, was one of the earlier cautions in the race. Of course, what happened to the RCR guys, somebody, I don't remember who in the comments, threw this out there last week to Rod and I. Oh, and what about Nick Sanchez too? Because we were so high on Hill and Love and they have the technical alliance. I don't think I even put it on the screen because I was like, nah, it's not going to be Nick Sanchez. It was Nick Sanchez. Shout out to him. Taking advantage of Austin Hill's mechanical issues and Love being involved in the wreck that kept him from having an ideal car. And the Cup race, man, oh man, I was on the edge of my seat at the end of that race. Just some absolutely insane racing there. After we had the gigantic big one that took out basically every heavy hitter in 2025 winner, it really made it an insane race to the finish. Chase Elliott breaks his winless streak, gets another hometown win, holds off Keselowski, Bowman, and everyone else. But like I said, man, great weekend of racing. And just all the trading of the lead back and forth and runs and everything. Atlanta really is still the best ticket in NASCAR.
It reminds me of what super speedway racing was when we were growing up, Elliot, like where you're getting these huge runs, but they're not like so crazy that you can't handle them. Like I felt kind of like this like pre-next gen era when like we saw Newman get into the fence and all this crazy stuff was happening. Like those runs were too big. And then it felt like at Daytona and Talladega now we don't really get big enough runs. This is like kind of right in that sweet spot. So love what racing we're getting put out there. And how crazy was it? Like terrible fantasy day for me, man. Like I had all three Penske guys in my lineup and they got yeeted right off the beginning, but great betting day. If you were betting the in-season tournament matchups at all, I know I had a good day for those. You did as well. But my goodness, I was on the edge of my seat. I had a 45-1 on Ricky Stenhouse. He was up there. And if Tyler Reddick takes the run that Chase Elliott did, Reddick had that same run first, and he didn't take it. We had a 35-1 boosted on him, baby. So I was sweating this out, and I was sweating this out on Monday because I was moving over the weekend. So I went like dark. I went dark. I did not get on Twitter. I did not get on Facebook or anything. I went dark for like 48 hours. I was like, I'm watching this race because I started it Saturday night when I landed and I fell asleep at the very beginning of it. But like, this is great race and I got to watch this whole thing. And it absolutely was, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I said, it really was a battle there. Reddick doesn't ever win this year. Stenhouse doesn't ever win this year. Chase didn't. Bowman didn't. Everyone at the front. It was insane. And like you said, the in-season challenge really was insane too. I was able to hit 7 out of my 8 matchups that I brought up on the show last week, if you tally them up. So that was impressive. But I only put sprinkles on those, and I was so heavy too on Penske and Cindric. I ended up just barely in the red for this week. And it was also because of Lime Rock in the Truck Series. Yep. Had that race perfectly handicapped. Lane Riggs over Cam Waters was going to clean up. Connor Mosek in the top 5, very cleanly in there. Good old Matt Mills stalls out that Nice truck inside of 10 laps to go. Totally kills both of those bets. So that didn't help either. I was in, had a couple of bets in the green. I hit an additional matchup to Kyle Busch over Austin Cindric, hedging there, which thankfully I did a little bit even at even money. because all the Penske cars got wiped out in the big one. Love over Hill and Xfinity, which as soon as Hill had the mechanical issues, I knew that was pretty well set. And then my traditional, not always mentioned, but usually always bet Alex Bowman top 10 bet whenever they give it to me at plus money at plus 130. So that helped my card stay pretty well. And I do, going 8 for 9 in anything with it, like I did with the matchups, pretty good. It's just I was not confident enough in my matchup skills. This week I'll break down. I have a matchup picked for each of the 8 matchups this week. So we'll see if I can do just as well again later in the show.
Well, and that's why my approach is generally what it is, where I scale back the quantity, right? And I just lay the absolute hammer on some matchups, like kind of same type of thing. I laid 3 matchups, which is more than I usually do, especially I don't usually bet super speedway matchups, but the numbers we were getting was crazy. I hit that Carson Hocevar plus 180 over Ryan Blaney, 1.5 units. That was a great win in itself. And then the man on the koozie tonight, John Hunter Nemechek plus 150 over Josh Berry as well for another unit. That felt great. But really what came to the window, our friends over in the F1 Funhouse, man, Esteban Ocon, top 10 out there. I think it was the Austrian Grand Prix. So that was a great race.
You didn't even know where they were at, and you still were reaping the profits.
I totally watched it. I 100% watched that race. I can tell you that. I watched the whole 2 passes that happened in that one. No, but a little 10-1 action, gave that out on the Betting Pros YouTube channel on Friday. So hope you guys were tailing that. But 5 units up on the weekend, and to leave Atlanta that way any week is pretty good for me. And like I said, I would make that Tyler Reddick bet again. I would make that Ricky Stenhouse bet. And I don't even know if we really mentioned his name that much other than mention that he did win. But I was looking at Chase Elliott hard, 16-1. I've been betting Chase Elliott here and there, little sprinkles on the outright this season. I saw him at 16-1. He was high up in the projections last week as well. So I was definitely sniffing around. Couldn't find a way to get invested with him. And man, do I wish I did, because he cashed a lot of people, I think, a ticket there, and made a lot of people down there in Dawsonville pretty happy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That they sounded that siren loud and proud down there in Dawsonville after the race. Congrats to Chase Elliott on the win there. You're right. I feel like we've had a couple of situations last couple of weeks where we've been just ever so close to being on the winner. And
Hamlin, Michigan.
Get that final piece locked in.
Hamlin, Michigan. We were like a week early, and then we were on a Pocono where we got second. Yeah, and then
even Briscoe Pocono too. We were on, I think, between the 3 or 4 of us that were betting that weekend, we had some sort of line on every Gibbs car except for Briscoe. And Briscoe gets the win.
Yeah, no, we've been right there, man. We're still turning profit, and we still I got to add it to my tally sheet here. We're already a good 4 units up myself, at least, for that Connor Zilisch generational future we hit in that market. So we're feeling good, probably in the green there, no matter what happens the rest of the way. So feeling great about that. But it's been an interesting season. It's been a great one, and I think we just got great racing in Atlanta, and hopefully the other super speedways can maybe learn a little something about, hey, this is how we have to have great racing here, because Elliot, it really was some of the most fantastic drafting tracks racing I've seen in quite some time, man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Great weekend of racing for sure. It must have been Nick that was on Sanchez last week. Shout out, Nick. We could have tailed you there. So all these things are telling me is we like the guys that were on, but don't be afraid to bet their teammates also. That could be another way to hedge yourself and make money. As we move into the news for the week, the big news involves the first silly season domino to drop, and it is that Daniel Suarez and Trackhouse Racing have mutually agreed to part ways after the 2025 season. Suarez will be out of that 99 car. Before we get into what's quite obviously going to happen to this car next year, we got to talk about Suarez, because he's been relatively successful in this ride, has got a handful of wins, or has got a couple of wins there, and of course a handful of success, but hasn't quite. Suarez has been that kind of guy that at times has been close to really breaking out, but hasn't really broken out as a NASCAR superstar.
Daniel Suarez has become arguably one of the more popular drivers in NASCAR, and what he's done for that entire NASCAR Mexico community cannot be understated, right? Like there are so many people. I know we have some fans in the IBT Racing Family Discord who love Daniel Suarez. They're his favorite driver. So heart goes out to them. But you're right, man. Like at the end of the day, he comes in here, he wins 2 races over I think the 5 years he's been with Trackhouse. And it's just the upsetting part about it. And some of it looks like the speed with these Trackhouse cars so far this season. But Daniel Suarez has regressed. He comes in 2022, 15.1 average starting position. His average starting position this year, 24.2. It's regressed every single year, 16.5 average finish that season, all the way down to 21.4, right? Like we're not getting the results. He's 29th in the point standings. And, outside of that Atlanta win, which, that could have gone any way when you really think about it. And, the Sonoma win was probably his best of his career.
Mm-hmm.
It's been tough sledding for W's. Ross Chastain out there, while he doesn't have speed in the car a lot of weeks, still winning the Coke 600, still winning at places like Phoenix where it matters, at Kansas where you can, edge a little something in your crown there. So it's just tough, man. It's been a tough ride for Daniel Suarez, but this is an insanely popular driver, so I do think he will land on his feet.
Yeah, he certainly does have options. There's nowhere that's popped up that's been a clear favorite as of yet.
Yeah.
Some of the rumors out there, Colleague Racing, if they're willing to toss out one of Dillon or Allmendinger, which doesn't necessarily seem likely. It's also the same kind of thing for people who want to try to put if they want to put him in the Spire number 7, are they going to throw out Haley that quickly? Some people have even tried to put him with Junior Motorsports in one of their potentially empty cars.
I think
pulling Justin Allgaier and Elliott Sadler kind of dropping down. We know that he's probably going to have funding that sticks with him. So maybe getting a top-tier Xfinity ride, it could be time for that, but also he probably will have some sort of option to stay in Cup if he really wants to also.
Well, I'm just going to say, too, like, if he does go back to the Xfinity Series, like, hammer down futures next year, whatever. Last time we saw Daniel Suarez in a full-time Xfinity ride, Joe Gibbs Racing, so keep that in mind. Definitely the cream of the crop of equipment back in those days, but 2016, 33 races, 27 top 10s, Elliot, 27 top 10s, 19 top 5s, 3 wins that season, goes on to win the championship in just thrilling fashion, moves Austin Cindric down there where he needed it at the end of the race. So very, very crazy. No, that was definitely Daniel Hemrick who did that. Sorry, I got a little confused there, but he did win a championship there. But yeah.
I wasn't gonna say it, but you figured it out eventually.
Well, you kind of lumped Daniel Suarez in with like a Daniel Hemrick type of guy, right? Also named Daniel, so I think there's a little bit of grace there. But regardless, this is a guy who's had success there, so I think you can absolutely hammer him if he goes back to the Xfinity Series race. And like, who needs a Cup Series driver at this point of Daniel Suarez's caliber? Like, I just don't know where that seat is. Like, Ty Dillon's been kind of nasty right now. Like, he was out there like 300 to 1 to advance to the next, or to win the in-season tournament. He's down like 40 to 1. So if you got that when I tossed that out before we even got the seating, I don't know, Ty Dillon's nice little driver. Have some respect, Elliot.
Yeah. I wasn't saying I was trying to kick him out of that car. I'm saying some of the fans are. Before we bring up some of the comments here, which makes some points, we'll talk about it more extensively when it's officially announced. But there's about a 150% chance that this car is going to be Connor Zilich's next year. He's a guy that's, of course, he's getting all the attention. He's getting the Xfinity wins. He's having other team owners talk about him as good drivers, as we'll touch on in just a minute. But obviously, Connor Zilisch is going to be in this car. And with the growing differences between the Cup and Xfinity car, drivers who have driven both of them, including Zilisch himself, say that there's not that much similarity. Obviously, I feel like it'll be growing pains for the young kid when he jumps up to Cup next season. But I feel like it'll be a little less than usual. This kid's a generational talent. We've known it. We've already hit a generational bet on him. It'll be fun to watch him in the Cup Series next year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully everyone came with us. You probably pay for your kid's college if you did on that one. But the thing about Connor Zilisch, like, maybe he wins a race next year. It's probably going to have to come at a road course. But, I mean, just how consistent he's been, even at ovals, has been outstanding for a guy who's coming from more of a, kart background, more of a road course, overseas background. Connor Zilisch, I mean, he's top 3 in Xfinity Series points. He's won on an oval now, one like Pocono, where there is a lot of craft to running at the tricky triangle. I mean, the sky is the limit for Connor Zilisch. And I'll tell you what, like, if I could bet whether it's going to be over or under 29 in the points next year by this time, where Daniel Suarez is, if he takes that 99 team, I mean, I'm betting the under, and I'm probably betting as much, if not more, than I did the generational future this season, man. Yeah,
I don't blame you. TK makes a good point here. The big teams have stabilized, whereas Trackhouse is expanding, so is more unstable. It's also the fact that 2022, being arguably their best season, was the first year of the next gen, when some of the big teams with more resources didn't quite have the things figured out that they do now. and a couple of potential spots here. Wood Brothers second car, that doesn't exist because Wood Brothers is Team Penske, basically. It's just the Woods own that charter and the number and the branding and everything. They own that branding, but it is essentially a fourth Penske car, which also rules out Nick's suggestion here of another Team Penske car, another RCR car, also not something that I think RCR could or should do, honestly. And TK making the point of the numbers here. SVG with his 97, Zilisch with the 88 back. I like that too. Justin Marks has been on record as saying he likes having the top and the bottom number. I don't think anybody will take the 99, so he probably could keep 188, 97 and still round out the back of the grid. But it just depends. That's another thing that's really dependent on branding. But that's always the fun kind of stuff. It doesn't matter a lick toward how the car runs or toward betting or anything like that. But the marketing aspect is kind of fun. Like I was excited to see the 88 come back, and for SVG, a guy who I've become fond of since coming to the States, was running it.
Oh yeah, and speaking of futures, I know you have an over 1.5 SVG win total. That was like plus 130 at one point. You got to be just feeling great coming into this weekend. Let me tell you what, I have buyer's remorse not taking it.
Man, I was more focused on the doubling down on Zilisch when they moved his over under 2.5 wins. I doubled down on it, but that's right. My SVG over for the year would hit too. I think a Trackhouse I also have an over under on. I don't remember what that is, but with Chastain's that could be good. I gotta look that up and throw it in the Discord a little later for sure.
Yeah, and just like regardless of what happens, who gets what number or anything, like I think Trackhouse, they're a threat now to put 3 guys in the playoffs every single season, right? And I think they're going to make some strides. And like honestly, if they didn't make this move and get Zilisch up to the Cup Series, like there's a real chance of this guy getting poached. Like he is by and large, arguably the best prospect since Larson. And like, I don't even know if Larson had this hype.
No, even Larson kind of ran a couple of years in Xfinity kind of under the radar. Probably the most notable prospect since Logano in 09.
Yeah. How old was Logano when he got his Cup ride?
I think so. It was 08, I think, was the year that he first, like halfway through the year, he turned 18. And then I think they put him in the 20 in 09. Okay. So he was probably around the same age as Zilisch, actually.
Yeah. So definitely up there with, you know, some of the brightest who have come through this sport. And I mean, it's just been so cool to see this guy's ascension. Like we saw his first ARCA win in person last year at Dover. We see his first oval win here in the Xfinity Series this year with Dale on top of the pit box. That was, if you guys want to check out that video, go back on the IBT Media YouTube channel, go to the Backroad, and you can watch back our Xfinity Series reaction and see us sitting down with Connor there for a little bit. But I mean, this kid's special, man. And like, it sucks for Daniel Suarez, but at the end of the day, I think it's what has to happen for Trackhouse to continue to stay as relevant as they have. And, you know, Daniel Suarez, again, he'll land on his feet, man. He's got a good team around him, I think.
Yeah, and you also mentioned about guys trying to maybe poach Zilisch. Jimmy Johnson put it on the record that he wants Legacy to get to 3 cars in 2026. Obviously, we know this because they're actively going through a lawsuit with Rick Ware Racing to get that 3rd charter next year. He says worst case 2027. They're a team that also wants to have 3 cars in the playoffs and be fighting for that, with both Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek running better. Johnson specifically mentioned, I believe this was on his Never Settle podcast with Marty Smith, he mentions both Zilisch and Jesse Love as drivers who've really impressed him. And this is not the first time that we've seen a Jesse Love to Legacy Motor Club. Honestly, what this feels like mostly to me, especially because I don't think RCR has the bandwidth or the sponsorship or the desire to go to a 3rd full-time car, feels like Jesse Love to that 3rd Xfinity car, or for the 3rd Legacy car, whenever it happens, feels inevitable to me.
Yeah, it's starting to feel that way, ain't it? And Jimmy Johnson in this organization, like we cannot give a bigger hand of applause to them, right, Elliot? I mean, it was not looking good. I mean, these guys were running 30 plus in points last season, even at Eric Jones' best tracks, Pocono, Darlington. Like, you were betting him. I wasn't betting him because I just couldn't trust the guy. And he comes around, turns it around this season, 16th in the points for Eric Jones. Only 3 top 10s, but just running super consistent, 18.4 average finish. He doesn't have a lot of bad days where he's getting DNFs. And John Hunter Nemechek, on the flip side, he's had some terrible days. But 6 top 10s, 23rd in points right now, man. Like he is absolutely having a phenomenal season. Top 6 run at Pocono, top 6 run the week before at Mexico City. He was a top 10 car all last week at Atlanta as well, Elliot, before he had some one of those restarts. Someone got into him and he ended up getting into the wall and never was really able to recover. But I mean, these legacy cars have legit speed. Like, I would dare say right now, legacy, like, if you gave me a head-to-head legacy versus 2311 in any given race, like, I would, if you give me enough plus money, I'm going legacy, baby. They got speed. They got speed. Finally, the notebook's been built.
Yeah, it's definitely getting up there for sure. That's a tall ask, but that's been how they've been running. It's been really impressive for legacy, and long may it continue in the mind of Jimmy Johnson and the venture capital that he's got going over there. A couple of fast lap notes that I don't know if you want to comment on. The estimates of the Ware Racing sale to TJ Buescher, the Spire co-founder that has bought into that team, that's been estimated to be a transaction of over $100 million, which is a good bit of coin. And RFK in their front office, a gentleman by the name of Steve Newmark, was their president. He's leaving that post and is going to become the athletic director in waiting at the University of North Carolina. So interesting move over there, wanting to make the jump into college sports in 2025. Best of luck to you, my friend.
I mean, we've seen this a lot, right? Like, you kind of just mentioned Marty Smith. Like, he's another guy. Like, I feel like college football and NASCAR are kind of similar regions, right? Southeastern part of the United States, and definitely interesting. But AD and waiting for a place like UNC willing to spend money on all their programs definitely makes sense. But it will be very, very interesting to kind of see what RFK does for that role. And RWR, man, I mean, good time for them to cash out, right? Like, I know we commended BJ a couple years ago for just selling his charter and getting as much as he did, but I mean, for RWR to sell their entire business, which not a super successful one, right? And just, I mean, 100 million sounds pretty good to me, man.
Yeah, and I know that both Rick and Cody, they're going to still be involved. Cody's going to race the car the rest of the year. At the end of this year, they should probably take their money and run. Probably Tommy Baldwin too, but that's a whole other story. Take your money and run. BJ hung around. They can run races as they want to. Have Rick Ware as an open car whenever you want to run Cody, and let TJ Buescher put together a better race team. That's neither here nor there. We'll get into those conversations in the offseason. It's too early to take dumps on teams for long range and things. We want to get to the bets, but we got to break down the track first, and let's take a look at the weekend in the Horizon forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
So as we move on to the weekend entry lists, for the first time other than the Daytona 500s since 2018 Texas Fall Race, we will have a DNQ in the Cup field. There are 41 entries, your 36 charters, plus we've got the Colleague 13 with Will Brown, Supercars guy who's run a handful of Cup races before, Austin Hill in the 33 for RCR, Josh Bilicki in the 66 for Carl Long and Garage 66 over there. Corey Heim is entered in the 2311, number 67, and Catherine Legg in the Live Fast BJ McLeod, number 78. There was no OEP, open exemption provisional, requested. Maybe Colleague and Will Brown could have got one, but they probably have to feel confident about qualifying in with some of those other open cars.
Yeah, and this has been like on the docket for a little while. Like, this wasn't a super, big surprise. I think we've known at least 4 or 6 weeks maybe now about this. So, But Will Brown, definitely interesting. Had some speed at Sonoma last season. Like, this is a good it's a big crop of opens, right? Like, I mean, if I had to put money on who doesn't qualify, like, I think the elephant's kind of out there, right? I don't think we have to really go there, but I mean, honestly, like, I've thought about, flirting with an Austin Hill top 10. If FanDuel ever brought back their top 10s, that'd be awesome. Still waiting on that, but like, I think he's interesting. Corey Heim, I mean, we have no data on Corey Heim. He's last in the projections because we have nothing to go off of. We've never seen him in a Cup Series road course, but we know he's a good Truck Series road course driver. So very, very interesting. And even like Josh Bilicki, man, like Josh Bilicki, not dog crap, not like pretty decent, honestly, pretty decent little driver here. And he's ran the Chicago Street Course before, I believe both in Xfinity and Cup. So great group of entry lists, and it makes Saturday all that more exciting. One more storyline to follow there.
Yeah, it will be fun to watch. That Colleague 13, just going to hope they don't run into problems, because you're right. On speed, it's either the 66 or the 78 that's going to miss the race. Yep. And it'll be unfortunate. But again, Colleague also, if Brown gets into the race normally, they get the owner points and they get the paycheck for wherever he finishes, which is much better than taking the out on there. Xfinity also always fun to watch on the road courses because you get so much variety. They've got 40 entries for 38 spots there and no charters. They go off owner points. And then, you can see some good drivers miss the field. Your notables in terms of potential bets here: SVG is in the JRM number 9. Jack Perkins is in the Joe Gibbs number 19. He has been a Supercars vet since 2006, was a co-driver with Will Brown in 3 Bathurst 1000s, which is Australia's most popular, most famous race. Kaz Grala is over in the Sam Hunt 24, just bringing him out because he's had some decent road course runs, a top 10 in the Cup Series at the Daytona road course and the Sam Hunt 24, maybe a little better than the cars some of these other road course specialists are in. You've got Austin Green in the field, Brad Perez in the 45, Preston Pardis, Josh Balicki, Connor Mosack, Alex LeBay are all entered in this field. It'd be fun to watch if all those guys could be the ones who make it and have some really good road course talent on the Chicago street course in the Xfinity side.
Yeah, I just like I love all the supercar guys coming over, right? Like it's just such a true test of what NASCAR is becoming, and hopefully eventually we can get some of these open wheel guys in here. Like how sweet would that be? And I mean, we've seen these guys show up, like Joey Hand, top 5. I think that was just last season. We've seen other guys, Jenson Button, have good runs here at road courses in the Cup Series. So I think it's super interesting. The next gen car is very, very close to what they're running over there across the seas in Australia. So I think it's great. Very hard to comp that. Very hard to fade these guys in matchups. My heart wants to tell me to. There's like some Sam Mayers versus Jack Perkins out there. There's even a Buescher over Will Brown minus 155 at Bet365. That the longer this week goes, the longer I look at it, I'm probably going to be betting at some point. So it's just super interesting. But it's like, how do you handicap it, Elliot? Because it's like there's only one SVG. Despite these guys being otherworldly talents.
Yeah, and it is great that SVG opened that door, and anything with more road course ringers makes things more fun. I remember you grow up watching Boris Said come around, Robbie shot to win races. Your PJ Jones and your Ron Fellows. I already said Boris Said. Say the Said heads of the world. Even guys like Jan Magnussen comes over, runs one race at Sonoma, finishes 4th in the Phoenix racing car, and then refuses to elaborate and leave. So the road course ringers are a lot of fun, as is that nice cheesesteak in that Arby's commercial that Cody Ware is in. Shout out to Ware for marketing their guys, at least, as we get to the weekend schedule. I'll combine into Saturday and Sunday here, 10:30 a.m. Eastern on the CW app is your Xfinity practice and qualifying. Over on True TV as well as streaming on Max. At 1 o'clock is Cup P and Q. And the green flag around 4:40 for the Xfinity race. The Loop 110 on the CW, of course, stage lengths 15, 15, and 20 in what was a great race last year. SVG Kyle Larson battling for the win there. And then on Sunday, the green flag 225 for the Grant Park 165, stage lengths 20, 25, and 30. And yeah, hopefully the rain stays away. We get some full races and we get some exciting races in this weekend.
Do the rain dance. Talk to Sweet Baby G's, whatever's got to happen out there in Chicago. We need a clean race. Like we had what was that last year? We were riding like a 17-1 or something SVG parlay for the weekend.
Yep.
And like we bet the same thing for this week, and we'll talk about it. But it's like 5-1, and it's like, man, we were riding sweet before the typhoon came. So please give us good weather. We don't need any BS happening on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, I don't believe they'll run in that heavy rain again as we look to how the course is set up.
Hope so.
2.1 mile. I've also seen 2.2 out there. Street course through Chicago's Grant Park area, runs through Michigan Avenue, Columbus Avenue, or Columbus Drive, I believe. A nice little area. I checked it out in December. Made that left turn right on to where the start-finish line is and drove back. It would be backwards on the front stretch, but still pretty cool to go out there and drive on the track. In terms of primaries, there's nothing quite like it because it's a street course. Yeah. But as we generally handicap it, all road courses will generally provide the same sort of successful drivers. So main secondary comps, your traditionals like Sonoma, the Roval, Coda, and Watkins Glen. And Seth, in the betting model this week, we used some general road course comps as well, but also specifically included average finish for Coda and Mexico City because we've already been there this year.
Yeah, so we pretty much weigh total speed rankings at all road courses since 2024. That includes everything we've been to so far this season. We also weighed road course finishes since 2024 as well. And then we're weighing things like average running position at Mexico, average running position at Coda. Basically the only 2 road courses we've been this season. And then there's just a ton of those Chicago metrics thrown in there too. But that's pretty much how it is. Like Chicago's different, but it's still it's still in the road course family. It's just kind of like the, redhead stepchild or so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, without the insulting the precedence that sets, for sure, it's definitely a little different. And yeah, we got to throw in everything because this is only the third race here. We only have two.
I like redheads. One of our best friends is redhead. Kyle.
Yeah, but I mean, the saying "redheaded stepchild."
Oh yeah. I guess more he's like the brother maybe you didn't know for a couple years. Like dad had a fling before mom, and you didn't know about little Jimmy, and he shows up when you're about 13. But dude can hoop. Dude's gonna buy you beer in a couple years, so that's Chicago. That's the street races, baby.
I'm sure you could run into those kind of people in Chicago. Fun little area there for sure. Third race here, of course, the first two both had rain involved in the strategy. Last year's did not make it to the scheduled distance. And a really great thing that came out of this race last year, before when we would have these happen, it happened a couple times at New Hampshire, and on rare occasions, we would just get to a point where, okay, we're running to the scheduled distance, but if things run late and NASCAR feels like it, they can say, okay, as of right now, we're done in 10 laps. Congratulations. This is what you get. They set the precedent last year after stage one. Okay, we went through this last year. We were worried about sundown as that race had rain and other factors involved in it too. Yep. They said, okay, the race is ending at X time. I don't remember exactly what time it was. At X time, we're going to throw 2 to go and get it back there. So as if the end of that race wasn't stressful enough for someone like me, you throw in a countdown clock there too. Okay, we got to make it to the end of the clock.
I liked it.
Then we get 2 to go. And then that's been a trend ever since. I think every week since, NASCAR has made it a point, regardless of whether they think they're going to run out of time. I think even if the track has lights, I feel like they still do it. No, probably not if they have lights. But anywhere that doesn't, they say, okay, our sundown time is at X time, just in case we need it. That's a good precedent to set because crew chiefs can work their strategy around it and not end up getting boned by, okay, we're planning this strategy, and if the race goes the full distance, and now all of a sudden it's done in 10 laps and we're finishing 25th.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, man. From like a fan perspective, it's great. From a gambling perspective, it's a little bit of a sweat, right? Like it's fun though. Kind of reminds me of like football betting. So yeah. I'm all about it, and it's at least more straightforward than BS, like you said. We used to see it like New Hampshire, right? So is the race? I mean, we went over the schedule. Obviously, I wasn't listening that carefully, but I mean, it was 225. It was 225. Is that earlier than last year? I feel like we were green at 3 last year, right?
I think last year might have also had some weather kind of effect. It affected a lot of the race. We had a long delay in the middle. That is at 125 Central. So that gives you a fair bit of time before the sun goes down. But then you also have the factors of, okay, if it's going to be rainy and cloudy, the sun is not going to be up in the sort of sense. It's where it would be on a clear day. Right now it's 9:15 here in Pennsylvania. I still see a little bit of sun, not to race in, but in any case, they are starting, and I believe early enough. It's just the last couple of years we have run into rain delays and things like that. That it did not push back the race distance, I believe, in 23, but it did in 24.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
As we look into some other trends here, the qualifying record, of course, we've only had 2 qualifyings here. As we move into the trends, like I said, his qualifying record was round 1 last year in 2024. His lap was 87.518 seconds in that round, a little slower in round 2, but he still got the pole. Denny Hamlin was your 2023 pole winner, which is kind of funny because we kind of write off Hamlin at road courses now, but he was able to win that pole for the inaugural race. In terms of average start, Reddick has the best in the series at 3.0. Larson and SVG are right behind him at 4.0. McDowell's got a 4.5 average start, and Bell a 5.5 average start for this race. In terms of the racing, SVG and Alex Bowman, your winners here in 23 and 24. SVG led 9 laps and Bowman led 8 laps. So the guy who leads the most laps, not necessarily the winner, at least in this case with that extra strategy. Both of those final lead changes took place with 8 laps to go in the race. So when we get to 8 to go, if it's a close battle for the lead, keep an eye out for the lead change that could win it. In the race, only 3 drivers have earned top 10s in both of the Chicago street course events. Kyle Busch, Michael McDowell, and Ty Gibbs, some other names you've heard there before. And Christopher Bell, a guy that has not popped up in any of these trends, but he has led 51 laps in total here, which is 38% of the laps run at the Chicago street course, which is a big number. But the finishes for Bell, as you'll talk about here in our Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week, have not been quite as good for the 20 car.
No, absolutely not. Bell comes into this week for us in the IBT projections. He's second, right? And a pretty strong second, tied with SVG right there. only behind Tyler Reddick. Christopher Bell was a standout performer last year, as you mentioned, at Chicago Street, but he finished with a misleading 37th in that race. Bell started 7th. I remember, I think I had a top 10 bet on him, laid it down pretty heavily as well, led the second most laps, 14 of them, had the third best average running position, 6.5. So he was up there all day. And he was the leader on lap 40 before the major field flipping took place that dropped him back into the teens. And then on lap 55, he was bouncing back. I remember I was like, okay, we're going to hit this, top 10 bet no matter what. Driving back through the field easily. Bell was up to 6. I thought maybe he could win this race. And then he got turned into the wall hard, dooming himself to finish 37th. In terms of total speed rankings from iFantasyRace.com, Bell ranked 2nd. So Christopher Bell, there's a bet out there right now, Elliot. I was looking to maybe lay like something like a over, if I could find like a 19.5. I did find it was super juice, so I couldn't lay that. But like an over 32.5 is floating around, over 26.5 I've seen as well. And I've thought about laying that. And Christopher Bell's the one guy who I think could win this race who's below it. So that's why I didn't lay it. But everyone else is like above that, way above that number. So I was like, oh, that might be interesting. But Christopher Bell, iFantasyRace.com, Asterisk Mark driver of the week heading to Chicago.
Yeah, that definitely was a bad beat last year, especially if you had the top 10, because he was coming. He was, of course, one of the guys that put on the slicks when the track started to dry out.
Yep.
Just kind of, the other guys ran out of time, or there were some mistakes there. Chris Bell was the guy. He was the first guy. Of course, he was the leader. He was the first guy charging through on the slick tires. Again, gets into, I think, Truex and Keselowski, gets turned into the wall, totally dooms his day. Then you have Tyler Reddick come through. He ends up getting kind of knocked out of the way. Ty Gibbs also comes through. I guess he was the one who gets knocked out of the way. Reddick goes through there. And if he doesn't hit the wall in turn 5, we're probably talking about that beautiful Jordan car taking the win in Chicago last year. But it was just strategy. I'll give you an early impression of the books here. I know there's only been 2 races, and I know Alex Bowman has won one of them. I feel like people forget that was just the absolute perfect strategy luck. They were one of the guys who stayed on the wets. We saw Joey Hand, I think, drop back to 4th or 5th after being the other guy to stay out there on the wets. And it would have, if there was half a lap more in that race, I mean, Tyler Reddick is passing him. The wets don't work. It was just the perfect timing there. What my point was with that is I think the odds on Bowman are all too juiced this week. There's not really anything on Bowman that really is jumping to me. I don't have anything on him in our bets that we'll get to just momentarily here. In terms of Bowman, I would watch carefully. We didn't really see what he was able to do in 23, blew a motor toward the end of the race there. But 24, just a good strategy call, got him that win. He was in the top 15 all day, but if you're thinking of the outrider at top 5, just tread carefully on the 48.
Agreed. 100% agree. 7th in the projection. So I do like him if you want to, flirt around with the top 10, something like that. I totally get where you're coming from. But to me, there's just other people I would probably rather be betting specifically on the outright. Like he's not going to win this race two years in a row. And, even if you're trying to go for a top 10 minus 106, there's just better numbers out there.
No doubt about it. And we're excited to get into those better numbers. We're going to get it started in tonight's Parking Garage Props. I feel like right now with our impressions of the books, I would say disappointed but not surprised is kind of the way I'm feeling here on Thursday night. We normally the Xfinity Top 10, a market that we love to get in, that they've started to offer this year, one that we loved at the road course in Mexico City, currently not out there, not even on Bet365, which normally has it week in, week out, as well as FanDuel, as you'll touch on too. They had their top 10s out there for a while, and I think Caesars did this as well this afternoon, have yanked even their top 10 odds down, which is normally a cup mainstay in terms of placement props.
Yeah, really, really trickery stuff kind of going on from the books here. Like, we always say it on here. This isn't a battle between NASCAR betting content creator and NASCAR betting content creator. This isn't a battle between fans and fans. It's us and these greedy books. And they proved it once again this week, Elliot, by doing this. Not only we didn't even have Xfinity outrights on a lot of books until this morning. So that's egregious. They've been great all season, honestly. Like I haven't had to, come on here and talk my greasy crap about them, but I'm going to do it now because you're doing this stuff. And then, yesterday I see a nice little John Hunter Nemechek 9-1 on FanDuel. All right, let me note that down. I'm going to do a little more research once I get done here with a couple other different shows I was working on. Get done. No, we don't have top 10s anymore. Sorry about it, bud. All right. Well, I still have like knowledge that you had it. I can see the API that you had it. So yeah, just ignorant stuff that we're getting thrown out. And yeah, it's hurtful to me when SVG last year were coming in here. We laid the parlay 17-1, something crazy on them, and it's like 5-1. I'm just sorry. I could keep going, but we're good. We're good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. It stinks, but like you said, we know with FanDuel too, they had those numbers a little higher than we thought, a little higher than the other books at Pocono, and we won some big money on the JHN top.
They know they're on to us, baby.
Run it back again. They must be on to us now, and it's unfortunate. Just set your numbers like every other book, so we won't have to talk about it. But if you upset your numbers and then have to pull it down, everyone out here is trying to put out their content for the week. It just stinks.
It does. Like how can I give out a bet tonight when I know some people might not be able to place it? That's the whole thing. But I will say ESPN Bet, again, continuing to do a really good job. No Xfinity Series top 10 so far. Other than that, I'm very thrilled with them. And hey, it is July 4th, so I guess we can have a little grace, right? Like maybe it's like they got other things going on, but also like other than Nathan's hot dog eating contest and some MLB, like there's not NBA, there's not NHL, like
no.
So no, actually no, let's not give him grace. No, come on, come on. We still got to do our jobs. We're still here tonight. Do your jobs, books. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Hot dog eating contest. I guess that's something I can bet on too. I'm sure Joey Chestnut's the favorite. Yeah.
We have a clip right here on IBT Media. Popcorn Root Beer broke it down live last night. We have a clip here. If you go to the clips playlist here on the channel, yeah, Joey Chestnut once again the favorite, but you can actually bet the over underline on a lot of different books for him.
Okay.
So
rest assured, I will go watch that as soon as the show's done, and I'll be blowing some money on the hot dog eating contest.
Well, actually, technically, you and I can't bet on it.
Oh no! Pennsylvania,
can't bet the NFL draft, can't bet the well, I mean we can, but like legally we can't, so
we can in the public eye.
Yeah.
Well, darn, that's all right. That'll save me some money, but I think I'm going to win it all back on this card this week, and it starts right here. 2 weeks in a row where I make an obscure reference that most people on this channel aren't going to know, but this is our squad riding on SVG business time parlay presented by Flight of the Conchords, the New Zealand comedy music duo that also had the show on HBO. I'm putting on my business socks tonight for Shane van Gisbergen. It's parlaying together his Cup outright, which was at plus 200, and his Xfinity outright at minus 115, nabbing this parlay at plus 461 odds on Caesars. We also both have separate units on the Cup outright. I believe it was still plus 200 when I laid down on it earlier at BetMGM. It's one of those, like when I got on it Sunday morning in Mexico City, that it pains me to bet these outrights. Parlaying it together, even at plus 460 for an outright, is not something I love doing, but it just feels like such a slam dunk for who is clearly the best road course racer in the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, like won here in 2023 in his NASCAR debut. He was on his way to sweeping the weekend. Like, let's not get that twisted. Like, Alex Bowman was not going to win that race. Kyle Larson was not going to win that race. Tyler Reddick was not going to win that race. SVG was going to sweep the weekend. Brilliant duel on Saturday with, Kyle Larson gets the win. Was going, running crazy fast laps. I believe he was on the pole last year as well.
Yep.
And then gets taken out by that Typhoon and Chase Briscoe.
Last year, Larson was the pole winner, but either way, I think you're right. SVG was going to be taking that win.
And like bigger than anything, man, he's coming off 3 weeks removed from beating the field by 16.5 seconds in Mexico City. That is absolutely absurd, man. He is number one in the next gen total speed rankings here. His average speed ranking at Chicago, number one. Shocker. Next person is 4. So it's a hammer. Like, listen, if it was like plus 150, I would say, no, I'm good. I'm going to wait this one out. But I'm going on the Cup outright. I'm going a unit on it, and I'm going 2.5 on this parlay. Like, the only person who can beat him at Xfinity unless some craziness happens is Zilisch, right? Like, and I just don't know, like, who's beating him in Cup? Chris Bell or Tyler Reddick? But Tyler Reddick has sucked lately, so I do not have him on my card. I'm not trusting him or 23. Like I said, Legacy has more speed than them lately, so not going Tyler Reddick. And Chris Bell, while he's absolutely brilliant, I'm just give me SVG, baby. Give me the Kiwi, baby.
Yeah, the one thing that really could bite him, though, is the chaos factor in both of those races. I'll talk about it later. Zilisch obviously does have the best chance in Xfinity. Some of those outright odds, though, if you believe in neither the 9 or the 88 is going to win in Xfinity, there are some ridiculous outrights out there. We'll touch on that later.
Yeah.
even though we're not betting on him. That's still, we'll talk about Xfinity a little later. But in the Cup Series 2, the only argument I can make is Mexico was the first time for everybody. SVG able to pick up on the new road courses quickly, just like he did the first time at the Chicago Street Course. Maybe a couple of guys have that sort of the experience now, and we've run it 3 years. If it's not in the rain, that throws in a different element where guys are even becoming more experienced in the rain. They throw on wet tires in Mexico City. If there is one guy that's going to knock down SVG, though, I've got the coin on it. I've got more coin on it than I do the SVG parlay. And that's the Ty Gibbs outright at 12-1 on FanDuel. In Mexico City, he had the car to beat SVG. I mean, he really did. He got bit by the strategy. He could have swept that weekend too. Got involved in that crash with Zilisch toward the end of the Xfinity race. It's crazy that Ty Gibbs is now, he's thought of sort of not like a road course ringer guy, but I wouldn't have really picked him out as, okay, his best chance to get a cup win is going to come on a road course. And that's what we have to say about Ty Gibbs in the 54 now. In the model, he's P4 just behind SVG, who surprisingly is third. It's mostly because of that P40 last year.
That's what it is, yeah.
But Ty Gibbs fourth in the model. He's one of those guys that's been top 10 in both the Chicago races, a P3 last year when he was coming through the field on the slick tires, and a P9 in 2023. I also have his top Toyota bet at 3-1 over on ESPN Bet. Ty Gibbs is a cat that can really go out there with SVG. You even heard him say post-race, man, I would have loved to have battled it out with a 54, and I think that without the chaos factor, that would be a really fun battle to watch as we come down to the end. Like I mentioned, maybe about 8 laps to go, you see one of these guys pass the other for that race-ending win. Ty Gibbs, it's going to be sooner rather than later. Guys with this much talent and this good of cars, they win races at some point, and it is coming for Ty Gibbs. Even if they can't show the week-to-week speed that we've seen from other guys, I feel like with road courses around the corner, we're at Sonoma next week too. Very well could see this 54 finally get that first win.
Well, look, the speed's there, right? The speed is there not only on road courses has he been delivering, but he's getting better at the ovals compared to where he was at the beginning of the season. And he really was SVG's biggest competition in Mexico City. And there, if you also go back to Saturday as well, it was him and Zilisch, right? It was him and Zilisch battling back and forth. They take each other out. Also get dusted up with the Carson Kvapil and company as well. And Daniel Suarez ends up winning that race. But, you know, not only was he super fast Mexico City both days, but now he's returning to a track, best average finish among the Cup Series 6.0. That's tied with our boy McNasty there. And let's not forget as well, Chris Gabehart now on the sticks as well for this team, now on top of the pit box. If there's a guy I trust to get Ty Gibbs' potential win, it is Chris Gabehart. I'm not betting the outright just because I'm that confident in SVG that he cannot be taken down without some craziness happen. So I am going Ty Gibbs top 10 minus 155 just because I bet Ty Gibbs is going to be one of the top 3 to 5 cars, and I almost thought about just betting the top 5. But we know how it happens to this guy late in races, right? He just somehow loses speed late in a run, never has good late run speed. So that's the only thing kind of hold me back from going all in on Ty Gibbs here. But I mean, I'm 4 units deep on this minus 155 at ESPN Bet top 10 line. So I do like Gibbs quite a bit, and I am with you. And I understand everything that you're liking about this number 54 team. This is probably his best shot, maybe the rest of the way to win.
That's the fun part too. Throwing money on both these guys is they kind of hedge the other, because I feel like they are going to be the 2 best cars. Chris Bell, we've already talked about him. I don't know that we've got coin on him, but he's a guy that I feel like we certainly will look into as the weekend goes on. There's a handful of guys that are going to be big-time favorites, and I think it's certainly going to be the 54 and the 88 that are up there.
We got QQQ, Triple Q, saying, seems Gibbs tries to overdrive the car for the entire race. Fast car and capable driver. Indeed, SVG, older, wiser, knows how to look after the car and be fast at the end. That's like kind of the thing. Like, remember last year at Bristol too? It was kind of that when we had we did have craziness there, but like Ty Gibbs just couldn't manage his stuff while Denny Hamlin and the boys could. So that's kind of the MO here. And that's why I guess I'm more on the top 10 rather than the top 5, Elliot. It's just like, I think Gibbs will be running with 25 to go, top 3 to 5, but I bet he could fall back 3 to 5 spots in that last 25 laps. So I guess that's more why I'm going a little conservative, but still love Ty Gibbs. He'll be in all my fantasy lineups as well. Yeah,
and that is what Van Gisbergen said about post-Mexico, is that even though they were battling pretty close together, Shane was saving his car. He was leaving the best for last. And that's exactly what happened. He opened the can of whoop 'em at the end for about 10, 15 laps there. Bowman was running second and was keeping it within a second. Chris Bell, I think, was right behind him, keeping it really close. And then Shane decided, all right, it's time to open the can of whoop 'em. And again, 16 seconds, largest margin of victory in the last 15 years in NASCAR.
Do you love how the spotter comes in over the radio, or maybe it's the crew chief and says, "Hey, bud, we can slow it down a little bit." He's like, "Stop talking to me. Like, I have one speed.
Don't
I have
tell me to
one
slow
speed."
down. I got to win this race. And it's one of those things where drivers talk about this. If you're not going full bore and you try to back it down, you're almost more prone to make mistakes because you're thinking about it a little more. And that is something we definitely should have mentioned on the 54 with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yep.
So Tyler Allen is still the crew chief, first-year crew chief over there. But now Chris Gabehart is weekly at the track on that pit box in the strategist role. So that is important, having a top-tier crew chief who's up to the, I forget what his title is, but the overseer of
competition director, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Director of competition, maybe.
Yeah, either way, he's a top dog at JGR now and is helping this 54 team. And it's neat when you see guys do that. You know, all three of your other cars have wins. Let's get that fourth car a win. I can think of other teams that I think should do that too. As we move into some other top 10 numbers, this is one of my top 5, top 10 favorite numbers of the year. Ooh. Chris Buescher at a top 10 at plus 140 on Bet365. This is far different than elsewhere. He's even money, minus money elsewhere for a top 10. And I know Buescher's run well enough at road courses. You could think about the top 5. You could maybe consider the outright even because he's been so good. Still the best average finish on road courses in the next gen, even after Mexico City. That's at 8.8. The RFK car is pretty decent speed at Mexico as well. Ryan Preece, I also have his top 10 at 4-1 from Bet365. Ran pretty solidly. I forget if he won a stage or not, but came close to winning a stage. And Buescher, again, road course ace, has the experience of out-dueling SVG on a road course last year at Watkins Glen. And in terms of the rod theory of if you're going to get punched in the face X amount of times and it's a big time favorable number, you should probably trust it again. In terms of road course top 10s in the next gen era, Chris Buescher is 15 for 19. That's 15, yes, 15 times this hits and 4 times it doesn't over these couple of years. Buescher scored the most points out of any driver in June. They're feeling good right now. Wow. They're feeling hot. They're still waiting to get him back to victory lane. I don't think he's going to quite get that far, but best believe Buescher is going to make hay up at the front. And at a plus 140 for a top 10, feels like some of the easiest money of the year, provided we don't have ridiculousness.
Yes. And I mean, you're dead on with Chris Buescher, just one of the most consistent road course racers. He's been an absolute stud over this past month. I mean, June was so good to this guy, getting him back in contention after that penalty. And the only qualm, the only devil's advocate you have is if there's been a place that Chris Buescher has struggled on road courses over the past year or so, it's been these weird road courses, the Roval, P17, Chicago, P20, which you can kind of, throw an asterisk mark over that because that was a weird race in general and a strategy and weather and everything like that. So, but it's these road courses that are a little bit weird. Like when you go to the Glen, like, I mean, I'm not going to get Chris Buescher probably minus 150, maybe 170.
I'd probably take that.
Yeah, no, I would too. I'd probably be betting it then, but just that's I think why I think that's the only hesitation I have with Chris Buescher. But at the same time, plus 140 is egregious. I think everywhere else, Chris Buescher is hanging somewhere right around even money, minus 130
money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I saw plus 140.
Yeah. That's a good number. That is a good number. Good looks on you.
Yep. And in terms of chaos factor, Andrew brings up a good point here. Gonna bet SVG and some values, but I think you have to bet this live for that chaos factor. And this is an interesting point. Do you think they'll be more willing to spin SVG now that he's locked into the playoffs? I feel like we saw that in some of those early Xfinity races. I remember Dakota last year in Xfinity, it was SVG and Austin Hill roughed up SVG, knowing that he is racing discipline. He doesn't have it in him to just run into a guy and turn him. So Austin Hill took advantage of it, got that win at Coda last year. I think now SVG has kind of learned the American style of stock car racing and what kind of run into. And I feel like you've got to stay close to him to be able to do this. And we saw him win by 16 seconds at Mexico. I don't know if it'll be that much of a margin of victory, but I mean, you're going to have to get lucky with a late restart. I could definitely see some of these guys, maybe that 54 car.
Well,
definitely that 54 car involved as well. That certainly I feel like would be willing to move him. And that's whether he's in the playoffs or not. It just gives you less of a reason for the other guy to come after you for dumping him to win the race.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Just to put a pin in Andrew's comment there. Like Chris Buescher, clean driver, Chris Bell, clean driver, McNasty, clean driver. Like the guys I think that could contend for this win. Tyler Reddick, pretty clean driver for the most part. Like
But
you know.
I feel like McDowell and maybe Reddick too, they'd be willing to move a guy who already has a win, or again, a guy who doesn't have a win.
Hey, McNasty would, but
It's to the point in the system, and especially with how the bubble looks right now, the only guy safe on points is Reddick, and that's if we don't have 16 full winners, and everyone else has the mentality of we've got to win to make sure we get in. And that's regardless whether you're above or below the cut line, even guys who are razor close. Hocevar has been super close. McDowell's been super close at times.
Yeah.
Even a guy like Buescher, who's consistently on the plus side of that cut line, they say, hey, we got to go out there and win. And it comes at all costs.
Yeah, let's go ahead to on the topic of McNasty. I got a McNasty top 10 at plus money as well, which I thought was great. If Caesars brings them back up, if you can get plus 110, I absolutely recommend you do. This is a guy who's number one at the comp track finishes since 2024, and that's with a 38th place finish at COTA in 2024, which is a bit of an asterisk mark as well. He's running top 10 there most of the day, and like second at Sonoma last year, fifth at Chicago, seventh at the Glen. This season at road courses, fifth at Mexico City, 11th at COTA, so just outside that pay window there. But also, Michael McDowell's right up there with Ty Gibbs for best average finish here in Chicago, and that's not a fluke either. This is a guy who has some road course racing, street course racing experience heading into this back in the day in 2023, and third place in the total speed rankings that day. He was 14th last year, made it to a top 10 finish. Inspire's been quick on road courses. We've seen Carson Hocevar have speed there. So we've also seen Justin Haley have some speed here and there on road courses this season, although he hasn't got the finishes he deserves. So I'm in on McNasty, 2 units for the top 10. I don't think there has to be a ton that goes into this, Elliot. It's just a guy that I think he is one of those who can contend with SVG. He's done it 2 years in a row. Can he make it 3? I'm going to say yes. Yeah,
and they'll bring the setup to the track to get him toward the front, because we're now to the point in the bubble battle also where it's track specialization. It's not that all of these guys can win at every track that's left the rest of the way who need to win. It's you guys like McDowell. Of course, anyone can look at Daytona, but he's got to look at the road courses and say, hey, either this week or next week at Sonoma, we got to give ourselves a shot. And I think they'll do that in the number 71, sponsored by DePaul University out there, Wintrust Arena, where they play their basketball. Good place to watch a concert as well there in Chicago. He had them this year and the Chicago White Sox last year, the local connections for McDowell. But I don't know if that's quite as fun as a Slurpee, as you see Kyle Busch's car he's running this week. Yeah. This is one of my most recent bets that I added. I just couldn't stay away. He was as high as plus 225 on Caesars, couldn't get to it before they took that down. But I don't mind it at a 2-1 on a book where I had some extra fun sitting. I threw it on there. And this is just me still believing in his potential from COTA. When he was one of the best cars, ended up P5 there. We didn't really get to see what he had in Mexico, because in the rain, ends up pushing it too far, wiping out himself and a couple of guys there. We couldn't see what he had. But here, again, he's been one of those drivers, top 10 both years, P5 and P9. He had a nice little run in 2023 with RCR. They have some more road course speed than we would have expected out of the Welcome North Carolina shop. He had a run at 4 of the 6 road courses that year, P2, P5, and P3, some really good finishes, and matched that Chicago P9 with COTA last year. So, again, it's not an outright bet. It'd be tough to see him up there with SVG. But this 8 car, I feel like, is going to put himself in a position here. Again, one of those guys that needs a win to get in. He's got the talent here, and I'm still keeping some faith in this 8 car. If he burns me again this week, I'm not putting him on my card at Sonoma, though. I'll say that.
No, yeah, I'm very interested in Kyle Busch. I almost took this exact bet. I was eyeing it up all week, and yeah, it's just I've been burned by Kyle Busch, right? Like that's kind of, I bet on him in Mexico City in a matchup against I think it was Cindric, and he was looking like he was going to smoke Cindric, and then doesn't know how to brake going into a wet corner, and that's what kind of happens. So yeah, that's basically what you're betting here. Can Kyle Busch keep it clean? Because if Kyle mother effing Rowdy Busch, if he can keep it clean, he's going to finish top 10. So if you can get a 2-1 still out there, if Caesars brings back the plus 225, I like it even more. So good on you for taking it. It was one of my initial leans this week. I haven't been there, but if you can cash something like that, it feels like a really, really great value.
And if you don't like a 2-1, he could be a guy we go out there after P and Q, and he starts 23rd, and you can get this number at a 3 or 3.5 if we're lucky, if you're not sold.
Sure.
So I got one more bet here before I get into my in-season challenge matchups of our in the positional props. Austin Cindric for the top Ford out at 5-1 on ESPN Bet. I feel like in terms of the Fords, in terms of some of the other things in that realm, it's a good hedge on Buescher, just in case We know that Fords don't really have the best road course speed, but they don't really have the best road course drivers either. They've got the highest odds to win in all the manufacturer props and things like that. And we know it's been rough for Cindric on the road courses this year. He was on the alt strategy in Mexico, ran the first 20-some laps on the same old pair of slick tires, didn't really work out. And Coda was rough too, gets in and spins around Ty Dillon, and just generally a rough one there. But I feel like outside of the 17, I feel like it's maybe Blaney. It's
Todd Gilliland. That's who it is. It's Todd Gilliland. That's
top Ford, maybe? You think so?
Dude, I mean, Gilliland honestly was pretty high in the project. He's the next highest Ford outside of Buescher in the projections. He's P14. He's had good runs here in Chicago, has had good runs at road courses as well. I like Todd Gilliland a lot, actually. Like sixth or seventh best road course average finishes 2024. Todd Gilliland.
Maybe that team just the last couple of weeks has been probably one of the slowest in the garage. They just haven't had any speed in that 34 the last few weeks. But that's maybe I'm letting the "what have you done for me lately" affect me too much. I don't know.
No, you're probably on it. Honestly, I think this is honestly not a bad pull. I am going to try to find what Austin Cindric's or what I can get maybe on a Todd Gilliland. It was weird. I don't know if you noticed this, but a lot of books didn't actually have all the manufacturers. Like you could only bet Chevy top top Chevy. It was weird. Todd Gilliland 12-1.
12-1 top Ford. I don't know. We have to see what his top 10 odds are when they come back. I feel like I'd rather bet a top 10 than a top Ford because maybe he could sneak in on the back half. But there's just been no speed. I mean, even front row kind of to an extent. Zane Smith looked pretty good last week, but
true.
They've almost been kind of a disappointment this year. Again, we'll save that for after the year and all that.
Yeah.
It's been the best year for FRM.
Yeah. All right, let's get to your in-season tournament matchups here before we kick it over to Xfinity.
Yep. So last week, I picked about half the matchups there. I went in total for my matchups for the week 8 for 9, including an additional one. So I've thrown down a number on every one of the matchups in the in-season challenge. We'll go through them quickly. And Seth, if you want to throw in any comments there, there's the guys I'm picking to advance. All right there in no particular order. I guess it starts with the lowest odds I took. I'm riding the Chris Buescher train over Zane Smith. That is at -200 on Bet365. The same matchup on BetMGM. It was Bet365 and BetMGM were the two books that I noticed had all the matchups early. I'm sure other books have added them. But you got to compare the numbers here because they are more different than you would think. BetMGM had this at the same +160 for Zane Smith. They had Buescher at -300 rather than -200. So I feel kind of good even with this much juice over Buescher. I was just talking about how FRM has not been the best this year. This is probably the one I'm most confident in. My second one's kind of a hedge. AJ Allmendinger at +110 over Ty Gibbs. Feel like you got to hedge sometime in here. It's a good spot to do it.
Yeah.
It brings in the factor of, hey, what if Ty Gibbs overdrives the car, puts it in the barriers, or ends up in a bad strategy or something like that? We know Allmendinger is also just as competitive on the road courses. It's my only bet I have on him for this week, but I'm confident enough in it to go with it, especially on my plus money. You know I love my plus money. And he's not the only colored car I'm betting, as I have Ty Dillon at +145 on Bet365 over Brad Keselowski. Neither are all that impressive on road courses to warrant the 6 car being as heavy of favorite as he is at -175, 180 that I've seen on the books. Ty Dillon in a pretty decent plus money spot, already upset the number 1 seed. Who's to say the upsets can't continue for the weakest RFK car on the road courses? Give me Ty Dillon and give me Colleague advancing. But I don't hate all the RFK cars. Ryan Preece is at -131 on BetMGM over Noah Gragson. I boosted this from -150. I had an odds boost token. And this is where I laid it here to bring that to a -131. We know Preece ran strong at Mexico. And who can forget how Noah Gragson was the national embarrassment in 2023? Put that in the tire barriers 3 or 4 times in that 42. I just feel like Gragson, there's no upside here compared to Preece, unless chaos, which is what we had last week. But plus money already brings in enough chaos. One of the, the mano-a-mano fights we could see is Bubba Wallace and Alex Bowman. They had a disagreement here last year at the end of the race. I'll take Wallace at +175 on BetMGM over Bowman. As I mentioned earlier, Bowman's odds are inflated because of that strategy win this last year. I think both will run well, and I think Bubba will be the kind of guy that'll race hard around Bowman if they're racing close to each other. Not just because that's what he does normally, but I'm sure he'll have that in the back of his mind that they haven't always raced all that well together. And this is kind of an opposite here because I do have a sprinkle on Bowman to win the tournament, but that is with my Ally Purple tinted glasses on that you should probably ignore unless you're a Bowman fan. You just had the koozie up there, John Hunter Nemechek. This one is the one I'm probably least confident in, but at +260 over Chase Elliott with how he's run decent on road courses And Chase Elliott's been pretty solid, but it's one of those that could be closer than you think. And at this number, like I said, it's the lowest stake of all these here because it's just a pure numbers versus chaos play. Chase is all the way down at minus 425 here on BetMGM. If you want to play Chase, he's at minus 250 on Bet365. I like that number a lot better. But JHN is just too tempting. That worked for me at a super speedway.
Great number.
Worked for me at a rainy street course too. The Spire car of Carson Hocevar, I've got him at plus 155 over Tyler Reddick. And you mentioned it. I do have some Litecoin on some Reddick numbers. I think I might have a sprinkle on the outright. You'll see it in the Discord later what my full card is. But there just hasn't been speed or execution of late for the 45. That's me putting a sprinkle on road course prowess that we just haven't seen. I haven't seen any prowess from 2311, and we have seen it from Hocevar. It's going to be one of those deals where you're going to see the craziness, and you're going to see which one of these teams can put the full race together and get it done. And then my last matchup, I didn't have a strong feeling here, so this was the last one I picked, but I had already picked the other 7, so I wasn't leaving out the 8. It's Eric Jones at minus 115 on a pick'em on Bet365 versus Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Like I said, I picked the other 7, couldn't leave this one out. Eric Jones, though, I found a stat today, 4th most points scored during the month of June.
Wow.
Talked about the legacy speed. We're keeping the teammate theme up here. Give me both of the legacy cars to the final 8 when we go to Sonoma for the in-season challenge. There's my 8 matchups this week. You see who I picked down there on the bottom. That's what I'm going with for this week at Chicago.
This is some D-Gen stuff. Betting 8 matchup. I mean, I love it. You know me. I love matchups. We're working something behind the scenes right now to maybe get a little interactive matchup contest going. We'll have a little bit more on that hopefully later this season. But yeah, this is D-Gen stuff. And I just wanted to say, like, in support of the John Hunter Nemechek bet, if you guys can find a John Hunter Nemechek line above 5-1 out there, he was 9-1 at FanDuel. They closed him down. ESPN bet had him 7-1 and got bet down to plus 450. Like I am riding this John Hunter Nemechek wave. I know it's kind of fun. I know it's kind of trendy.
Yeah.
I know
keep in mind that's for a top 10 too, not in his matchup against
Yes. Yep. Top 10 line there. And this is a guy who cashed us a big ticket at Pocono, 8-1. Nearly had our guy Eric, our GM over here at IBT. He was riding a 22-1, top 5. He almost hit on him as well if Briscoe would have run out of gas, but hit top 10 on him. Come back last week, hit the plus 150 matchup on him. Started 12th here last year, had the 6th best average running position in this race, 11.8, was P6 at Mexico, followed that by Pocono P6 as well, and still swinging in the tournament. So I'm all in on JHN. He will be on my card in some shape or fashion. If I do have to, I don't want to go up against Chase in a matchup with him because I think Chase is also a top 5 to 10 car. However, if I have to do that or bet a plus 450 top 10, I might just take the matchup against Chase. So yeah,
we need to put the numbers back up so we can get there. It'd be nice.
Please, let's do this.
Even like a 6-1, like you said, for JHN for a top 10 would be pretty good. As I've got one more bet for Cup. Winning number over 45.5 is a plus 120 on BetRivers. Caesars also had a line at over 50.5 at plus 150. Of course, it's more limited. If it was 44.5 and you get Reddick in there, it's better too. But I took some sprinkles on both of these numbers. Didn't want to exclude Bowman just in case. It's a good way to also up your stake on the heavy hitters I mentioned, Shane van Gisbergen in the 88 and Ty Gibbs in the 54. And it gives you a couple of those upset potentials. The 48 of Bowman, the 60 of Priest, 71 of McDowell, 77 of Hocevar, 99 of Suarez even gives you some upset potential. But again, it's mainly to also get a little extra coin in the likelihood of either a Ty Gibbs or SVG victory.
Yeah, I was thinking about taking that over 32.5. I've seen it over 26.5 for like more the pick up minus 115 price tag. But this is an interesting way to get a little plus money, so I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, it's not bad, but some of those numbers also probably a little better. Gives you a little more scope there. Normally when I bet these, it's okay. I routed off 15 cars that might be able to win the race. There's a lot less here, but at a plus money again with SVG's lines, give me any way that I can bet him. And that's the way I looked at it in Xfinity too. We have the parlay, but I've also laid separately on the Connor Zilisch outright plus 150 at ESPN Bet. I understand that. And I know that SVG's in the field. But it's still tough to count out this kid. I feel like these two have a lot of fun together. I bet SVG's giving him some tips that maybe he doesn't give to some of the other drivers. You never know there. With Zilisch, we know how well he's run. Every race since he's come back from that Talladega wreck has been a top 5. And that 5th place was not even what he wanted in Mexico City. I feel like this is a perfect time to cash that generational part 2 that I have. Again, SVG, they could run into some pit problem. That's not a full-time team over there, the 9. Maybe Zilisch just outduels him. A plus 150. Again, they're outrights that I hate stomaching. But as his cup ride is officially opened up for next year, I feel like it could be a full weekend of celebration for Connor Zilisch.
See, to me, you got to pick one or the other. And I'm just too on board with SVG. But I understand. The crappy thing about Zilisch is I would bet him any other way. But the only way you can bet him at a bettable number is on the outright or in a matchup against SVG, which I'm just not willing to go there. So I understand why you're making the bet, but I'm good.
Yeah, man, I don't blame you. And it is, you're kind of limiting your profit there to plus 150. But you're right. The top 10, I think, was some minus 1,000 or something ridiculous there. It was unbelievable.
Too small of a number to hedge for me. For me, quickly, if you can find Austin Hill top 10, if you can find a Taylor Gray top 10, those are 2 drivers I'd be very, very interested in. But for me, I'm just going to fade Nick Sanchez. There's a little recency bias in the books after coming off that win. Nick Sanchez, he's finished 24th and 31st in his 2 road courses so far this season in the Xfinity Series. Carson Kvapil has beat him both times, and those have been races where he started off hot and got taken heavy damage or ran out of gas or had to pit, something like that. Some bull craps come along the way. And Carson Kvapil minus 125 at DraftKings. I'm going 3 units there. I also saw sniffing around. There's also some Christian Eckes lines against Nick Sanchez. Eckes has back-to-back top 5s in the Xfinity Series road courses so far this season. So I'll also probably be going Eckes over Sanchez as well if I can't find any of those top 10 bets. But Carson Kvapil, minus 125 over Nick Sanchez, and then probably also some Christian Eckes over Nick Sanchez as well, fading the recent winner.
Yeah, Eckes is not too bad, too. He was, I think, P3, P4 at Pocono. And with Kvapil, he's been running well at the road courses, just runs into trouble. And it's just one of those where it's just tough for me to get on him there. But I feel like if you do, it probably is over Sanchez, who is kind of okay at the road courses.
Yeah.
But, it's debatable there, too. It's one that I'll take a look at, though. DraftKings, not one that I use super often, but could be intriguing. And you mentioned some of the other top 10s. You know it. As soon as those top 10 numbers come out, I'm on the Austin Green top 10. Nailed it in Mexico City. And at every road course race that it's out there, it is going to be on my card. That number
Green, baby,
of Austin Green. It's one of those where maybe he can parlay this into getting some good road course rides. And then you could start thinking about some Austin Green outrights. But the next 2 weeks for sure. If you put Austin Green in that 19 that the Supercars gym
sure.
Go out there and at least run.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's those road course ringers that make it so beautiful. Again, who would have thought when we first came into here? Well, I guess I kind of maybe sort of mentioned the SVG outright at like 100-1 in 23, but never had a chance of believing it. Who would have thought we'd be betting him, laying a ridiculous amount of coin on him for the outright just 2 years later? This Chicago street course has been a lot of fun. I'm excited to watch it again this week.
No, I am so much. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. The easiest way to support us here at In Between Media, first, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Elliot and I and our co-host Rod, we're live every Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Shout out to our girl Nicolette, our producer in the back end, always making us sound crispy and stuff as well. And also, make sure you're subscribed if you're new. We got college football, NFL, entertainment betting. If you like betting on the PGA, NASCAR, F1, we all got it right here on the channel, inbetweenmedia.com as well. Elliot, thanks so much for being here with me, my friend.
You too, Seth. Hop in that IBT Racing Family Discord too. Next new member, Joey Logano signed polo. Going to be fun. Thanks for rolling on down the back road with us. Enjoy the Chicago street course, and we'll see you again next week here at In Between Media's The Back Road.